Hello, it's Jill Lebofsky here, your Midlife Mojo coach, here with another Midlife Mojo Monday. How is everybody tonight? I hope you guys are doing great and you had a great weekend. I definitely did. And I'm excited to be here tonight. And as always, just to kind of share my tidbits and a little bit of insights and give you some natural solutions for all of those hot topics that are most important and on the hearts of the 40, the 50, and the 60-year-old woman. And, last week we talked a little bit about memory. Memory is an issue that definitely affects us starting, in our 40s, 50s, 60s. The hormones, as well as just the normal process of aging, can sort of start to affect our memory. But it's not an inevitable thing that we're going to lose it. It's kind of, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So we talked about exercising our brain a little bit, doing things like crossword puzzles, or using essential oils. I talked about sniffing some rosemary or using Young Living's product MindWise. Some natural solutions that you can do to just kind of boost that memory and keep it sharp, because as we go into our midlife years and beyond, we've got a lot of things we want to do and accomplish, and having a sharp memory is definitely an important piece, because gosh knows it's certainly embarrassing when you're fumbling over your words for everything, which I probably will do a few times on this video. But anyways, so if, natural solutions are, a really important piece of what I like to teach. And for those of you who have not heard this yet, I am launching a new course in January of 2019 called Finding Your Midlife Mojo. And it's going to be amazing. I've got so much great things that I'm going to be packing in and sending you, and information to share to help you transform yourself during these years and find that mojo again. And these little Midlife Mojo Mondays are just little tastes of what you're going to get in the course. So I'm going to put the link at the end of this in the comments, and you can go ahead and check out what I'm offering for that. But for tonight, actually last night I was thinking about what do I want to talk about today, and I came up with a topic last night, and then this morning I was on Facebook and I read this article, and it just kind of sparked something in me, and I said, nope, this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. So we're going to talk about is nurturing your marriage when raising kids. Now, some of you, maybe your kids have already grown and flown and they're not in the house. Maybe some of you, are still in the throes of, everyday parenting. The kids are still living. Maybe some of you, the kids should have been flown, but they're still living at the house. But this is really specifically, this article I read sparked something in me about, trying to keep that spark in your marriage alive while you're raising kids. And I think it's a really, really important topic for the midlife woman to be thinking about. And it's never too late to start working on our marriages, because those kids are going to be leaving one day, and it's just going to be us. And we want to make sure, you want to know that you've got something strong, a strong bond still going long after the kids have left. I've been, asking myself this question, a lot lately. I got about 3.5 years before my kids are going out of the house, and my husband and I think we have done pretty good over the years of working on our marriage. But now with the kids going, I think we're going to be faced with that really inevitable, when it's just the two of us, of question, did we really do enough to have the strong, bond once it's just the two of us looking at each other every single night, and we got to come up with things to talk about. So I'm hoping so. But for a lot of couples, this is a really big issue. They really have lost their marriage because, over the years, just, raising kids. And there's the rise of something called gray divorce. I don't know if anybody's heard of that before, gray divorce. It's a term I hadn't heard of until recently, but it's that's specifically divorce among the 50 and up crowd. And it is on the rise, sadly enough. And, I really started to think about, again, like my 25-year relationship that I've got going on, and all of the things that we've gone through, and, all of the time and the energy being spent outside the relationship. And, all of a sudden, if you haven't been spending time with your spouse or working on this relationship, you just kind of one day looking at each other and saying, who are you? Like, I don't recognize you, and I may not even like you anymore. And for most of us, we married our spouses because they were the love of our life. And we want them still to be the love of our life until death do us part, right? And so I think that focusing on your marriage while raising the kids is an important thing. And there was a little fact I read that it said since 1990, first of all, the 50 and up crowd, the divorce rate is on the rise, while the younger people, the divorce rate is actually declining. So that says one thing. And then among the 50 and up crowd since the 90s, the divorce rate has doubled. And for the 65 and up crowd, it has tripled. That really got me thinking a lot. Like, what is it about, like, my generation and the generations before me, the older generations before me, that, that they're running into all this divorce all of a sudden? And I think it's because we've just been so taught to, our role models and then what we kind of put out there is just to give up your life for your kids. And I've got plenty of friends who have done that. And then all of a sudden one day the kids are gone and what do you got? So I'm just I'm getting off of my little script here I wrote here. I wrote some things out, but this topic just really got me going, So my question is anybody else trying to kind of figure this out? Is anybody else, even if your kids have already left the house, maybe it's been recent, maybe it's been years, but you just kind of feel like you and your husband are going through the motions, but that spark isn't there anymore. Is this, I hope that there's not a lot of you who answer, but unfortunately, having done my research and talking to a lot of my friends, I know this is a fact for many, many people. And I am definitely, no marriage expert by any stretch. I've been married for 20 years and we're still happy, so I feel like we've done some good things, but after reading this article and hearing what this man had to say, I was like, I could have written this article myself. Him and I definitely had the same philosophy on raising our kids during our marriage. And I was reading that this article was actually pretty controversial when it came out. The title was, "Why My Wife Matters More to Me Than My Children." And it was written by a man who's been married to his wife for 17 years and has 8 adopted children. When you hear that title, did that of course, it sparked my interest, and I don't know, just give me your opinion about that. Just curious, did that, do you like that? Did that spark a little reaction in you? But, like I said, I've watched a lot of my friends kind of put their marriage on the back burner. Their whole life has been, about their kids, and that's wonderful. And I have to admit that sometimes I felt kind of guilty and like a bad mom that I didn't want to be around my kids 24/7, and that I just wanted some alone time with my husband, and that we took the alone time often, vacations by ourselves, dates by ourselves. I was very fortunate to have a lot of family around to have to send my kids to, and I know circumstances that isn't for everybody, but regardless, even if you can't send the kids away, you can still, or you can't get away from the kids, you can still carve out time for each other separate from them, and I think that's really important. Okay. I think, for a lot of people, when they're raising their kids, they're just kind of think, oh, there'll be time for us later. There'll be time for us later. But later never really comes, later, all of a sudden, okay, now your kid's out of the house. And then, God forbid, an illness strikes or a death strikes, or somebody decides one day just to say, I'm up and leaving. Things like that happen, right? Or just like I said, or you just wake up one day and realize you just can't stand the sight or the smell of each other anymore, right? That can all change in a moment. So that whole, oh, we'll have time for each other after the kids have left the house may never come. So why wait 20 years? Why not enjoy your marriage and your kids simultaneously? So this article gave 4 important reasons why it's important to have a strong and healthy marriage when kids are involved, which I want to discuss. And then, of course, I'm the solution girl, so I'm not going to end this without giving you some practical tips that you can implement right away, because otherwise this is just a bunch of talk, and talk without action is just pointless, right? So his number 1 reason for working on your marriage and keeping it strong and healthy and intimate is a healthy marriage is the cornerstone of the home. the kids are not the cornerstone, okay? They're a huge part, but they are definitely not the ones that are doing the whole juggling act and keeping things afloat, right? They're not the ones that are keeping this family train moving and keeping it from crashing and burning. That's on you and your spouse, and working on that together, and for your kids to follow your example. Do you agree with that? Just let me know. I love healthy discussion. So even if you don't, please let me know. I know everybody's got different opinions about this, and I definitely do love a little healthy discussion. So number 2 reasons was, before the kids, there was just you and him, or you and her, whatever it was. There was just the 2 of you, right? That's one of my favorite reasons. You had this whole life together long before the kids. I loved my life before my kids. My husband and I, we met in the stairwell the very first day of college. He came stumbling up drunk, and I was smoking a cigarette. How times have changed. And as it turned out, we lived across the hall from each other and became immediate friends for the next 5 years, and then dated for the next 5 years, and then the rest is history. Been married for 20. We traveled all around the country together. I don't know, we had sex wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted. You know, we just loved hanging out together and being with each other. We just, like I said, we had this whole life before kids. And, you know, it's funny because we're starting to kind of reveal some of the stories, and the kids are always shocked that their parents had this whole life and did all these cool things before them. You know, and I wouldn't change anything in the world for my kids. They've enriched my life and given me a whole other world of experiences. But you know, the kids, they're stuck with me, right? They're stuck with me. The marriage, that's no guarantee, right? One of us can get up and walk anytime. So that really needs extra, in my opinion, extra love and extra attention to it. Because again, you know, kids are forever, but your spouse, that's a choice every day you make to stay together. So I'm just curious, does anybody want to share anything cool that they did with their spouse before the kids? You know, something that you guys did together, or a fun memory, something to share that maybe some of us don't even know about you. That would be awesome. All right, so there was that us before them, and there's going to be us after them. And that's the number 3 reason why we want to work on our marriage. Because no matter how hard I fight it, these kids keep claiming they're leaving this house in the next couple of years. And the truth is, you know, once they do leave, they're welcome back to visit, but not so much to live. I mean, maybe for short periods of time, but I got plenty of friends and people I know who've got their 25, 30-year-old kids still living with them. And, you know, my kids' lease runs out at some point. That is, to me, isn't respecting even your marriage. You know, that again, you know, I understand, again, it goes back to circumstances. No judgment here. Obviously, there are circumstances that the kids need to live at home. But, you know, as soon as you can get them out of the house, do, so you and your husband can get back to the 2 of you. Kind of hard to have, you know, red hot sex in all the different rooms, in the kitchen, on the floor, anywhere you want, when you got some kids laying around, you know, your 25-year-olds. Definitely hard when you got those kids still at home, for sure. And so, you know, but you've got to, even when the kids are at home, you still can work on all of those things. And it's really important to do that, you know, and that intimacy, you know, that's an easy one to let slide during child rearing. It's an easy, easy, easy one to let slide. Just one day rolls into the next day and you don't feel like it, you're too tired, whatever. Please don't let that slack. If that's an area of your marriage that right now needs a little of attention, then give it that attention. Like I said, my husband and I, we've done a lot of things I think well, but having assessed our marriage lately, because, you know, my poor man, that's what I do. I think about things a lot, and then I make him do things and take action, but it's good for us both. But there are definitely some things we need to work on. Luckily, intimacy isn't one of them. We got that one pretty well down, and I'm on a mission to make sure everybody's got that one down. But there are some areas I'll tell you about in a bit we need to work on. Okay. So let me see. So let me know if you've got kids at home or are still living at home, or even if, you know, how often do you and your hubby get some alone time together? Do you make the time at home? Do you take the time and go out on dates? You know, what do you do? How often do you get to, you know, just be just one-on-one, just the 2 of you? Do you think you could squeak out a little bit more time and find a little more time for each other? I know I definitely could. So if I'm being 100% honest with myself. So number 4, and this to me, honestly, this is what I have always said, and I think this is the most important reason for working on your marriage when you are raising kids, and that is to set a future example. Kids watch everything we do. They really do. They watch us, they emulate us, they spit it right back in our face, things that we've said, right? So why not show them an example of a loving, happy, committed marriage? Seeing, to me, I want them to see a couple that likes each other, that loves each other, that has fun with each other, that's affectionate with each other, that supports one another, respectful of each other. That's what I want my kids to see. And if we're just going through the motions of life, that doesn't happen so much. In the article, the man wrote, when children see that their parents love each other, they are sure that their parents love them. And I honestly believe that with all of my heart. So spending 24/7 doting on your children and every single whim they have, doesn't necessarily give them the idea of what, a good, strong marriage is, or even gives them an idea of the confidence in themselves. I think that they need to see the love between the parents and see the parents leaving them, going out and having their own special time, so that when the kids go and have their marriages, I hope they do the same. And I'll be the babysitter if they need one. Anyways, so let's see what else. So those are 4 good reasons why we should nurture our marriage. Marriage is, marriage is the cornerstone of the family. There was us before them. There will be us after them, and then setting a good example. So how can we actually do this? Like, what are some things we can do right now? The kids are still around. So I came up with a list of about 8 things that, that I thought off the top of my head of things that, we could do to really strengthen your marriage. And some of these are actually things that we do in my own marriage. But one, you can take out, if you're very, very busy people and, got running kids around and, volunteer work and going to the office and all of that, just at the beginning of the month, take out your calendar and just look at the month and just mark off 2 days or 1 day, whatever you can afford of time, but at least once a month, ideally 2 or 3 times a month, that are just time for the 2 of you guys. And that is non-negotiable. That isn't, if something else better comes along, we change that. That's just as important as if you were meeting the president and you would never cancel that. Well, anyways, you know what I mean. So, things like that. So, and also when you go out on this date, have a no children talk rule. And that is pretty hard to sit there across from your spouse and not talk about your kids for an hour and a half or 2, but try it. It really kind of forces you to think of some questions to ask each other. But in doing that, you may find out, some things that they've been holding back on, or maybe some, ideas that they've had for the future. It gives you that chance to really just kind of spend that time dreaming about that future that you used to dream about years, before you got married, and now kind of dream about it because it's getting a lot closer, right? The kids are about to leave, and you can start putting some of those dreams into action. So no kid talk on our date. You can find a fun activity you both enjoy doing and do it together at least once a month. So this is something different than the date night. This is something like just finding an activity that maybe you guys like to do, or I guess it could be part of a date night. Like maybe it's playing golf together or listening to jazz together. But it's good practice for when the kids are gone, because you're going to have a lot more alone time. And well, this is one I sprung on my husband actually recently. I just told him, we used to have a lot more fun, It's strange because now he's working from home and we're around each other so much more. And I think you tend to take that for granted a lot more. And so I don't feel like we're doing as many fun things as we used to outside the house. And my kids are older. They're in high school. They can fend for themselves. We can go out at least once a week and do something fun. So I talked to him about, we've got to do something. And he was a little wary about it. And he said, well, I'm not willing to commit to anything, because if I say yes, I'll do it. He goes, then the next thing I know, you'll sign us up for a country line dancing class and then tell me that I told you that I would go. So that was a kind of a clue to me. And he's not so far off. It sounds like something I might do. But that was a clue to me that, it can't always be, my fun might not be his fun. So finding an activity you both like to do together, that'll make it that you both will want to do it a lot more. All right, what else? You can create a couple's bucket list and put a time limit on it. So, like we just celebrated our 20th anniversary in March. So I was thinking it would be kind of fun to do like 25 things to do that we want to do together, before our 25th anniversary. Something like that, but some kind of couple's bucket list that you guys want to do. But put a time limit on it because that will make sure that you do it. And then there's something simple. I mean, this is just simple. You don't even have to leave the house. Just shut off the TV. Like send the kids to bed or the other end of the house. Shut off the TV. Get into bed and snuggle. I'm not talking like have sex or anything like that. No, nothing like that. But just shut off the lights, or maybe put a candle on, put your diffuser on, put some nice oils in there, and just snuggle, and have some pillow talk. I know, like me and my husband, we definitely have some of our best talks, when we're just laying in bed and it's just quiet time, so that's something special you can do as well. And then, beyond the pillow talk, you can also have some sex, okay? And I say commit to having it at least once a week. For some people, that would be once a week. Oh, my goodness. And for others, they're like, that's not enough. And some just fall somewhere in between. But in midlife, for a lot of us, we're not having enough sex. Our libidos are running low. The male libido is running low. It's dry down there. There's all this stuff going on. And our lives are just busy, and we're not having enough of it. And, sometimes you just got to make sex a conscious choice. Like it doesn't always, have to be this swept up momentary in passion. Maybe it's, okay, it's Tuesday night and the kids are out and not really in the mood, but we got some time, so let's go. Because usually once you get going, the mood kind of kicks in, hopefully. And if it doesn't, I got an oil for that. So talk to me. That's a whole other midlife mojo. I think I might have done one about that already. But somebody once told me that the more you do it, the more you want it. And that is definitely true. So try that one. All right, what else can you do? You can sit down and just have a really nice conversation about how you both need to be loved. Now, it seems like a little woo-woo kind of conversation, but, usually, we give the love that we want to receive. Kind of, not necessarily the love that the person wants to receive. And it feels different for everybody. So, for some of us, maybe you're away for the weekend and, you come home and the whole house is spotless. Like you just feel loved and respected. And gosh, you might even just want to jump his bones for just cleaning the house. And then it was the opposite way, and he was away for the weekend, and you spent the whole weekend cleaning the house, and he walked in, he might not even notice. Or maybe he'll notice and maybe not acknowledge, or maybe a brief, oh, the house looks nice, honey. And you're hurt. And he doesn't even feel anything, and here you were trying to make this big grand gesture. So your love languages are off. That's basically what it is. Your love languages are off. So sitting down and finding out really what makes each other tick, what would make them feel loved, respected, wanted, desired, and do that. Maybe all it is, like I know for my man, honestly, he'd be just happy if I would just sit down, and watch a movie with him for 2 hours. Not a big TV person. There's a million other things I could be doing than watching, I don't know, some movie that, from the 1980s that I saw, 30 years ago. But I started realizing, like when he's asking me to watch that with him, he too probably isn't necessarily asking me to watch the movie for the movie. It's just to kind of take some time together and be in each other's presence. So again, listening for what each other needs is important. And sometimes it's just an I love you, for no reason at all, just an I love you, all right? And you can even write love notes to each other, and leave them for each other to find unexpectedly. Maybe if you, pack each other a lunch, you do it. Or maybe if they leave before you in the morning, take something to the mirror, or if they're going on a trip or whatever it is. But, You know, you can even do, throughout the day, maybe some dirty text during the day. That kind of, spices things up a little bit, especially if you know the kids aren't going to be home that night. Then, maybe throughout the day, sending each other some little bit of messages, or even being more physical with each other during the day. It doesn't have to be a full-on romantic thing. It can be a little, excuse my language, but a little ass grab as, each other's walking by, or, a kiss on the cheek, or a tousle of the hair. Again, just an out of the nowhere, out of the blue, I love you. Just ways to remind each other that you still desire each other. You're still hot for each other. You still love each other amidst all of the craziness of raising a family. So those are my ideas I came up with off the top of my head. If you have any other ideas or ways to sneak in, staying connected with your significant other amidst the busy life of parenting, I am all ears, always looking for some new suggestions. But that's all I have for today, and I hope that you enjoyed today's talk. And if you're watching this on the replay, please comment. I definitely go back and I look at everything, and I will respond to any questions or comments that you have. And if you would really like to dive into getting reconnected with your significant other, then I really highly recommend you checking out that Finding Your Midlife Mojo course that I have starting in January of 2019. I'm going to put it in the comments in just a moment, the link, because that's going to be one of the issues we're really going to focus on. Whether it's finding that significant love of your life, or taking the love that you have and making it stronger, reigniting it. So that's just one of the things we're going to focus on. And if that doesn't seem like it's something for you, or maybe it is for you, but you think, you had a friend maybe who might benefit from it, it'd be a really fun thing to do together as well. So that is it. If you're enjoying these Midlife Mojo Mondays, please like, comment, share, invite your friends. As I've said, I'm on this mission to spread, the word to the 40, 50, 60-year-old woman that we don't have to curl up in a ball and die just because we're hitting our middle-aged years. Instead, we're going to thrive and use natural solutions to do it. So have a great night, everybody, and I will see you next Monday, same place, same time, as I always say, 7:30-ish. That's Jill time for you. Have a great night, and I'll speak to you next time.